believe the countries can only go so far. The Ontario government is pleading with Ottawa to ban travel from India, while Quebec is reporting its first known case of the highly transmissible variant first detected in that country. Ontario government House Leader Paul Calandra says it's critical that to prevent more variants from infiltrating Canada. Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou has won the final leg of her extradition hearings until early August. BC Supreme Court has granted a request by Meng's lawyers for more time to review documents related to the case obtained through a Hong Kong court. Federal government lawyers had opposed the request, unsuccessfully arguing there was no justification to delay hearings that had been set to begin on Monday. Derek Chauvin has spent his first day in jail after his murder conviction and the death of George Floyd. The verdict in the former Minneapolis police officer's trial has been hailed as a sign of progress in the fight for equal justice. But the case leaves unanswered difficult questions about law enforcement's use of force and systematic racism in policing. This as more details are being released about a black teenage girl shot and killed by police in Columbus, Ohio.
Micaiah Bryant is seen on video charging at two people with a knife.
Get down! Get down!
Officer Nicholas Reardon was the first on the scene.
Back up. She had a knife. She just went at her.
Columbus Mayor Andrew Gimp asked, did Bryant need to die?
How did we get here?
Public Safety Director Ned Pettis says everyone needs to pause.
And though it's not easy, wait for the facts as determined by an independent investigation.
Police say Ohio state law allows officers to use deadly force to protect themselves or others. I'm Ed Donahue.
In sports, one matchup, the NHL's All-Canadian division, that has the Montreal Canadiens up 2-1 on the Edmonton Oilers early in the third. Lehkonen and Anderson, the goals for Montreal. Connor McDavid, the lone goal for the Oilers. This is Montreal's first game without goaltender Carey Price, who suffered a concussion and is out at least a week. Elsewhere in the NHL, the Sharks and Golden Knights, actually Vegas now up 4-2 on the San Jose Sharks late in the third period. The Minnesota Wild took down the Arizona Coyotes 4-1. The Nashville Predators absolutely falling. On the diamond, the Blue Jays hold off the Red Sox 6-3. On the court, the Raptors.
Apex Predators. The Carnivores, the Cannibals. And she was a girl and she was black. You had to shoot her 4 times, man. Wait for the facts. I can hear what you did, stupid. These guys need a little long time watch to get the money out them. Wait, where's Senor? You dumbasses. Oh, there's a nigger. Let's shoot her. Bang, 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 bang. I got something for you, dog. I got something for you. You're not gonna like it.
Small ball, someplace inside the stone. Naturally, their value isn't high. Miss Roberts didn't know the difference. No, but I should know anyway.
If I do nothing already, our lifespan's 38, 42, or 53. Yours is 88 or 85 or some shit. We're gonna have fun with your ass.
There might be something wrong.
Hey,
of course, I wondered about his not knowing much about diamonds, but I figured that he was willing to pay what I wanted. I didn't have to concern myself with what he's going to do with the stones. Well, Mr. Roman, I wonder if we could start from the beginning. Exactly what happened. You knocked me out?
Smoking causes lung cancer. That's his MC when they complicate pregnancy. They'll fucking kill you.
Well, as I said, he told me to bring the stones up here for his father to see. I did, and then waited for the father to show up.
Oh, by the way, Russia's going to kill everybody.
You know, they look better than somebody else. Well, when he finished, he said something about his father never being on time.
Oh, and there's
I turned to look out the window.
mystery brain disease
right on the back of my head. Can you see it?
that the government's known about since 2015 in New Brunswick.
I'm not afraid. Can you see it right there? Right there. Bump on the back there. You sure? Yes.
I saw the video 59 seconds after it was posted.
Yeah, Frank.
Because I'm like,
sure. Excuse me, Mr. Rubin. Sure, that's all right. Yeah, Frank. Call the office. They put out the description there. You can tell the plate the Princeton call. Yeah. How's Roman getting along? Well, he's got quite an egg in his head, but he seems to be okay. Manager says he's called the house doctor. Should be here right away. Sergeant? Yes, sir. Have you called me yet, Roberts? No, sir, not yet. As soon as the doctor looks at you, sir, we'd like you to go down to police headquarters with us if we would. Of course. But you shouldn't have too much trouble catching him, not with those eyes. Real little beady. Yes, sir. Well, what do you want me to do at police headquarters, Sergeant? Oh, we want to take a full statement, have you look at some pictures if you would. Would you too? Yes, sir. Anything wrong? Oh, no, but you'd figure with all those diamonds gone, that fella hit me and all, it seems that they could have done better. Well, how's that, Mr. Roman? Seems you couldn't sell a captain. 11:15 a.m. Leighton Prince arrived and went over the rooms. Frank and I were unable to find the instrument Roman had been struck with. Checking with the desk clerk and the elevator operator, we were able to get a composite description of Fred Roberts. It tallied closely with the one given us by Roman. The desk clerk told us that Robert...
So the way these people conceptualize us is animals that they're putting down. You yelled stop, and she didn't stop at the voice of a white man. So 4 shots, bro. There's an 8-pound pull on those things. It's either 5 pound or 8, is there not?
And then suddenly what becomes dozens become...
We have people serving 35-year sentences on your side of the border. Lockdown, no lockdown. They're in the same place you're in. They're 1 degree of separation from your fucking loved ones, stupid. Like a puppet on a string. Like a puppet on a string.
If you're at 200, which is where we were yesterday, then a doubling takes us to 400. And when we were at 400 a day several months ago, that nearly broke us. Probably 400 a day is we couldn't have sustained that for more than a short period of time. And if that had continued, it would have broken the system.
What are you seeing in the ICU now as far as the types of patients are concerned? Because those in personal care homes, those over a certain age, they've been vaccinated, and not to say that they wouldn't get it, but you know, they're in a whole lot better situation wave 3 than they were wave 1 and 2.
Yeah, last time I was on in the ICU, one of the things we were noticing is that the patients who we were seeing in ICU were starting to move much younger. Early on it was 70s and 80s. But
Dick Tracy said you don't get older than
we only work a certain number of weeks out of a month. But last time I was on, we were seeing many more people that was in their 40s and 50s and 60s kind of thing, and that's where the deaths seem to be occurring now. So I think both the case
unless the child soldier's actually shooting right at you, right at that moment, you're not allowed to take them out. They have to be taken into custody and given over basically to the UN or whoever deals with them. You're not allowed to use lethal force on them.
Probably related to the fact that the B117 variant has become dominant, is much more infectious. Whereas before you might have a sick person in the house with you,
the virus don't give a fuck, as I found out.
Seems to be now that families getting infected all around the same time by passing with each other is I think we're seeing that more.
And the potential for somebody that is asymptomatic to bring it in to the household, that they're not going through it, but boom, giving it to somebody that can go through it in a big way.
Yeah.
There's evidence of that, and that's the scary part of this, isn't it?
Very much so. I think
that it's affecting white people
I think it's a very dangerous situation, and I wish we were kind of, I think we all like to hope that we're close to the end, but I'm not convinced of that at this stage. I think we're potentially still very.
He's heading back there. Looks like he's going to.
Whether the vaccines retain a high degree of effectiveness for the variants that seem to be popping up kind of, every day. We know, of course, about the 3 major variants: the African variant, the South African variant, B1351, and the Brazilian variant, and of course B117. But there are other variants out there, and I'm worried that some of them become even less sensitive to being covered by the vaccine. So there's a lot of worry still out there.
Do you wear a mask all the time?
Yeah.
What are you wearing, Bob? What the fuck was that about?
Yeah, and I think that's good advice, because I talk to people all the time, and I there's the professional aspect of it, and then there's the, okay, what are you doing to stay safe? And it's, my bubble is very, very tight. I'm wearing a mask. I'm avoiding situations where I don't have to interact with people. And the advice that I give to people: get the shot as soon as you can. Right? Get the shot as soon as you can. Doesn't matter which one it is. Get it.
Absolutely. This whole thing about, this vaccine is better and you've got problems with the Johnson vaccine and the AstraZeneca vaccine, et cetera, et cetera. You're talking about side effects that are on the order of 1 in a million deaths. You're more at risk going outside while it's raining.
It's on the order of 1 in 10,000.
Airline flight kind of thing. The relative
going to use those terms. It's in the order of. It's on the order. It's an order of 1 in 10,000.
3% of people with COVID-19 die, according to the numbers that we have right now. 3% of them. So I'll take the 1 in a million chance over a 3% chance any day of the week.
Doctor, what worries you the most right now as you see what's going on in Ontario and British Columbia, and you're going through your mind saying, well, we've seen this before and we're weeks away from it hitting here. What worries you the most right now?
You're weeks away from finding out that it was weeks ago.
That, frankly, our politicians don't seem to be learning from never mind the experience of others like, the Atlantic provinces and Australia and New Zealand, who've kept the numbers way down. They don't seem to be learning from them.
But they got strange brain diseases.
But even worse, they don't seem to be learning from our own experience. That's the thing that gets me. It seems like what we do is we have a rate, we let it get up to around 200, then we start kind of restricting things really tighter and tighter, and then it crests and we have to shut things down completely, and then we push the numbers down to like, in Manitoba, 50 a day, and then we just go through the same cycle again, kind of thing. And it seems much more rational to me to use a maximum suppression strategy where we really push the numbers down to, to under 10 a day, and then you can use contact tracing and local methods to keep the numbers down. As far as I'm concerned, I know that some people think that would just be too much for the Manitoba people, but I think if you explain it to them and you tell them that you're talking about a short-term pain for intermediate-term gain, I think they would buy into it. I think these recurrent shutdowns and these changing restrictions, I don't think anybody can follow them because they're changing all the time. I think it'd be a lot better to push the numbers down hard like they did in the Atlantic provinces, and then keep them down. And the interesting thing is the Atlantic provinces have 1/15 per capita, adjusted for population. They have 1/15 of the number of cases and 1/15 the number of deaths. We have 950 deaths or something in the province.
961.
If we had the same numbers, like if we had the same mortality rate that they're seeing with the Atlantic provinces, we'd be under 60. Under 60, that's 900 people.
Here's what I think is happening in Manitoba. We hear and see the stories out of Ontario and BC, and we say, well, we're not them at least. And we look around and we say, you know what, we're not them at this point.
Yeah.
And then your response is, but we will be them.
Murder capital.
We will be them, and we could be the Atlantic provinces.
You see life and death a little different.
They have businesses operating. They have people going out and enjoying themselves and socializing. And so does Australia. What's so special about the Atlantic provinces that they could do it and we couldn't? Or at least that we couldn't even try?
Dr. Anand Kumar is with us. I'm Richard Kluche.
Well, there he goes.
For Charles Adler on the Chorus Radio Network.
Probably what it comes down to.
Stephen, I'm thinking of adding physical gold to my portfolio.
Well, I wouldn't do it. It's volatile, and it doesn't pay a dividend.
Really? Because...
Hey, it's 4:06 o'clock.
And... We continue to interrogate Fry. From the evasive answers he gave us, it looked as if he was lying about his part in the robbery. When an interrogation seems to bog down, the working detective usually tries to find some subject with which to draw the suspect out. Some weak point in his makeup. Maybe it's his parents, his wife, or his children. It might be the fear of having loved ones find out about the crime he appears to commit. In Fry's case, questions about his family failed to produce any results. We tried other subjects: religion, baseball, golf, fishing. None of them seemed to bring him out of his shell. Occasionally, during the interrogation, he referred to the jail fees, comparing it to the other 30 reasons. As the questioning went on, they found that Fry considered himself a gourmet, talking about the dishes that he'd eaten at various restaurants. He tried to lead the questioning around to the diamond theft, but he constantly brought the conversation back to food. Fry had presented us with a possible
I'd
way.
much rather hear that happening than
He signed him out of the city jail and drove him down to Phillips' restaurant for dinner. When the waiter brought the menu, Fry didn't wait it. He ordered soup, salad, and 2 French dip sandwiches. As he ate, we tried to get him to talk, but he refused, saying that he wanted to finish his dinner first. Frank and I each had a sandwich and some coffee. Fry continued to eat. He ordered 2 more sandwiches. Finally, he pushed his chair back and said that he'd had enough. Now for some dessert, huh? Dessert? Yeah, meal's not complete without dessert. Figure I'll have some apple pie, lemonade, and some coffee. How is the coffee here? It's good. Now, how about the information? You know, Friday, that's why you can eat that jail food. You don't take care of your stomach. You gotta learn to relax after a meal. Relax, you'll live longer. Oh, that's all in there to do is about telling us all about it just to get us to get a free meal. I told you, take it easy. I'll give you the story after dessert. All right, Frank. Yeah. Get the pie and coffee. Now, the waiter seems to be busy eating. You like that Alamo pie? That's right, Alamo. No cream in the coffee. Nice place here to do good business. I've been here a long time. Best French dip sandwiches I've ever eaten. Nice and lean, aren't they? Yeah, they put out a good meal. Here's your pie and coffee. Thanks. 3 spoons of sugar? Yes. Coffee sure smells good. Hey, it tastes good too. All right, let's get on to business, Fry. Now, what about the diamonds? Where'd you get them? A guy named Joe. What's his last name? Never heard of him. He gave you the diamonds to sell. You don't know his last name? Yeah, that's right. Where'd you pick up the diamonds? Didn't. Joe came by my house and left them. What's this Joe like? Oh, medium height, about 32, medium weight, about coloring. Medium. He's a real ordinary looking fellow. Where'd he say he got the diamonds? And he brought them out from the east with him. Didn't tell me where he got them back there. I think he's done time someplace. Why'd you say that? I just figured it, the way he talks, the way he handles himself. Got the marks. You'd know him if you saw him again? Oh, sure. Think you could point him out to us? Have you got it? No, but if he's done time with a mug of him, figures we got it. Want to look through the mug book? Sure. How did this Joe get in touch with you? Called the house, told me what time he'd be there. When do you usually call? Most any time. I know what you're figuring, but it won't work. This whole thing's been in the papers. He won't call me now. Too smart for that. He won't show. How about the diamonds? Don't you think there's a story about you being picked up? So he saw. He's got no beef. He's still got 130 grand in stones. He's got no worries. Hey, how about some more? No, you've had it for the night. All right, let's go. Oh, thanks for the meal. Sure appreciate it. Jail food was killing me. You know, a good meal always makes me sleepy. Sure getting right. Hey, let's knock it off for tonight, huh, fellas? I'm bushed. No, let's look through the mug book, then we can call it a night. Honest, fellas, I'm so tired I can hardly see straight. Feeling like this, I couldn't be sure. Well, that's right. We'll take you back. We'll see you the first thing in the morning so we can get started. Okay. Say, I was just wondering. Yeah. You think you can work out something for breakfast? 2:30 a.m. Once we assumed the suspect to the city jail, Frank and I went back to the office. We were certain that Fry was in some way implicated in the diamond theft, but we didn't know just how he fit in. Frank and I signed out and went home to get some sleep.
This is Charles Adler Tonight on the Chorus Radio Network.
But that was not who was talking 2 minutes ago. Oh, this is good. Everything's breaking. Hey, it's been about a year. Things haven't been maintained properly. Well, they were maintained properly before now. Everything's breaking.
We turned up and all those circumstances made sense.
Wow. Okay, so I guess we don't get to talk about the budget or Russia, NATO, or I don't know. Who was it? The Chadian president who got shot in the face? Nobody is untouchable, apparently. So BBC doesn't work.
So I really want to explore all that. And these girls in your work, they're really beautiful, all of them, natural hair. dark skin, you know, it seems like almost a celebration of like black womanhood. Is that right?
Yeah, because I just feel like when you embrace who you are powerful with that. Like nobody can tell you, oh, you have this kind of hair. Like you're like, yes, I have this kind of hair, and so what? Like I've accepted it. So there's nothing you do or you say that can hurt me because I have accepted and I've embraced it, and I am going to celebrate that.
What is it about the black woman that you find inspiring and beautiful?
The skin tone, because it's really challenging. You know, like most of the time people feel like dark skin tone is black, but in all honesty, most of my skin tones are a mix of all the primary colors.
How do women inspire you?
I feel like women are resilient, and that just inspires me to like never stop and to keep going and to not settle for less, you know, to be treated better.
And Nigeria's a very patriarchal society, I think it's fair to say. Is you painting women a way of kind of reversing that?
Me painting women is a way of celebrating who I am and telling my story through that, because it's what I am interested in doing.
I'm here with the curator and founder of Paces Gallery.
My name is Winika McCann, and we promote emerging contemporary artists both locally and internationally. Adolfina creates these avatar-like characters, mainly women. I don't think I've ever seen a man in any of her drawings yet. They're childlike, but very haunting. They're multifaceted. There's so many layers of them.
And also, there's something to be said about them being black women. You know, you rarely see black women painted in this way, fragile or looking childlike, as you say, or looking doll-like.
Well, you know, representation is very important. And the fact that Adolfina is drawing characters that look like her in her environment, and the world seems to be switching on to this, even though this is our lives. We're black, our parents are black, our grandparents have been black, you know, black has always been. And suddenly there's this like huge focus with everything going on in the world. So there's even more attention placed on these artists. And the simple fact that she's also a woman, you know, the art world is sort of dominated by men. And to see such a young artist reflecting her emotions and the emotions of people around her and these women, it's wonderful to see and feel.
That's the curator, Winika McCann, and the artist Adolfina Umuede speaking to the BBC's Manny Jones.
Let's go back to the United States now, where the family of George Floyd have expressed relief over the murder conviction of ex-policeman Derek Chauvin, who knelt on George Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes during his arrest. His death and the last words, "I can't breathe," sparked global protests against racism and excessive police force. But across the country, there continue to be cases of citizens killed by law enforcement, including the case of the 13-year-old Adam Toledo, who was shot by Chicago police. He'd seemingly just thrown away a gun and he had his hands up in the air at the time. Well, Mateo Zapata is a photojournalist who's been documenting the life of the Latino community in Chicago, and he's written a piece called "We Are Adam" about the incident. Greetings to you, Mateo. It's not just about the killing of Adam Toledo, is it, this young 13-year-old? You also talk about the relationship between the police and the Latino community, and also how they seemingly abandoned, it seems, the Latino community, or even the authorities have too. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that we're dealing with a systemic tendency that Chicago police are illustrating in regards to killing black and brown youth within the city of Chicago, especially during foot pursuits.
Hey, when
you say that, is that because you know there have been so many articles and videos have been shared repeatedly showing that young Adam threw something behind the fence when he was caught. But it's the speed with which the police shot at this young 13-year-old just as the police were shouting out, and he held up his hands and yet he was still shot. What are you and other community leaders saying should have happened even before it got to that stage?
We should have fucking lynched those cops.
Well, the police officer who was engaged in the foot pursuit asked Adam to show his hands. And he yelled that a few times, and that's exactly what Adam did. He dropped the weapon, turned around, and had his hands up in the air to show that he was unarmed.
There's no court case ever going to happen. There go. Chain of evidence is gone.
What weapon happened? There was no weapon by the police.
Tell us, Matteo, what you feel about, the George Floyd conviction. Do you feel that the conviction of the officer Chauvin will make a difference between the way the Latino community, for instance, not just the Black community, are treated by the
you thought there was a difference?
Unfortunately, I don't.
You're playing games of politics again, trying to reinforce something. You speak a different language. You should be speaking.
Conviction was announced.
You're different.
Was killed by a police officer. She's 16 years old, and she was shot 4 times in the side and in the back. So I think that what we saw was a demonstration of accountability in regards to convicting Derek Chauvin on all 3 counts. But this country has a huge problem in regards to police violence and in regards to resorting to killing Black and brown people.
It's not resorting to the first thing they do.
Situations.
Stated purpose. Look at the stated purpose.
One thing I got from your article, Matteo, is you talking about they should deal with the roots of the problem. I mean, how young Adam Toledo, for instance, was failed by the school, failed by the community, failed by, or the community that did take him on were the gang members. And that's where he found the real affiliation when he should have been taken under the wings of his teachers, of others.
This is all speculation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Chicago specifically has curated a culture of gang in the streets of our city for over half a century. And I think that the Chicago public school system
ever convicted of racketeering or something?
Doesn't know or have the tools on how to deal with youth that have these sort of behavioral problems at a young age because of the environments that they're living in. And what they tend to do is simply marginalize them and label them at risk.
All about how to infiltrate a group of kids and without them knowing that's what you're doing.
When you do that to a young child, all you're really doing is pushing them further and further away. And I think that what the city of Chicago needs to really confront is the fact that there are thousands of children that grow up in that same kind of environment that Adam did. And in order for this not to happen again, we need to confront that, but at the same time, seriously take a look at how the Chicago police is killing Black and brown youth in the city.
Thank you so much for joining us, Matteo.
Distribution of the BBC World Service in the U.S. is supported by
nothing to do with any of these companies.
Pandemic has hit us all hard. Our streets. COVID-19 has left far too many people homeless, but you can help. When you donate your unwanted vehicle to Homeless Cars, you'll receive a minimum $400 tax receipt, and Homeless Cars can continue their fight against homelessness and food insecurity. Donate a car, change a life. A single donation can provide shelter for at least 10 nights or 150 bag meals. Make a difference today and go to homelesscars.ca.
Remember the 70s? Coffee was only a quarter. Disco music blasting in every club, and when the man pulled you over after a couple of drinks, all he'd say was, "I'll let you go this time, just drive carefully."
Well,
it's not the 70s anymore. And when you get behind the wheel after a couple drinks, nowadays, this is what the man will say: "You're under arrest for driving under the influence."
Sure. That's
This is it.
That's the daydream they give you.
Stands out.
They can come to your house, kick the door in. You drinking a beer 3 hours after you got home, they can still say, "Oh, I think you were drinking when you were driving." Yes, they can.
There's just one way to handle the killers and the spoilers, and that's with the U.S. Marshal and the smell of guns.
This is Global News. I'm Toby Kerr. With a growing number of concerning mutations of COVID-19 from India, why are flights still allowed to arrive in Canada? To that question, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he believes significantly stronger travel measures have been implemented already. He speaks of ongoing talks with officials and health experts, but no word on what exactly that includes.
But we're, again, looking at what next and what more we can do to keep people safe. Every step of the way, this government has done what is necessary to keep people safe, and we will continue to do that.
Canada has meanwhile suspended flights from the UK last December when the B117 variant of concern had initially been discovered. An American offer of vaccines could provide some relief as a growing number of younger people in our country become severely ill with COVID-19. President Joe Biden has indicated the U.S. plans to send surplus vaccines to Canada. That's likely to be the Oxford-AstraZeneca shot, as it has not been approved by U.S. regulators. Meantime, experts in Ontario have warned the hospital system is fast approaching a breaking point. The National Police Federation says it has grave concerns about enforcement of BC's new COVID-19 travel restrictions. It says it's heard from a growing number of RCMP members opposing use of police to enforce the ban on non-essential travel outside of local health regions. BC Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth says the province is examining the use of periodic police roadblocks to discourage recreational travel, but there will be no random individual stops. But the Police Federation says participating in enforcing roadblocks would strain already limited resources and put members at further risk of COVID-19 exposure. And Canadians are getting a new discount flight option, with American airline JetBlue announcing it will begin its first flights to Canada next summer. The company says it will start with flights between Vancouver and New York, as well as seasonal service to Boston. From the Global News Desk, I'm Toby Kerr.
I really ain't interested. Well, you go take the baby and smear its little fingers with thick molasses. What? Yes, and then I told her to give it a half a dozen chicken feathers. What for? Well, I figured it'd pluck the feathers from hand to hand until it fell asleep. And then if it woke up again, all she had to do was to give it some more molasses and feathers. Oh, seems to me that only make the little baby mad. Oh, man, that shows how much you know about babies. Oh, my goodness gracious. Can't we talk about something else? So you start something. Hey, wait a minute. Hey, Mr. Dillon. Well, riding up street there, leading that horse with a pack on it. Oh, yeah. Doc, look.
Oh dear, this is awful.
Which is a private university usually attended by children of the elite on the outskirts of Kaduna City, and then opened fire. They moved into the dormitories of the students straight and abducted a number of students, and also killed a staff member and injured another. So far, we don't know exactly how many students or staff have been abducted. I spoke with the Commissioner of Internal Security in Kaduna State just a couple of minutes ago. He said that they are still trying to verify the records to determine the exact number of students abducted, but security forces and other measures are being deployed to ensure that the victims are rescued. But this is not the only abduction that has happened in Kaduna State and across the country. It's the latest in a string of mass abductions of students. Since December, more than 800 have been abducted, even though most of them have been released. But there are still around 29 others who were abducted last month. Also in Kaduna State, that are still in captivity. They are, by now, the longest held captives in this string of kidnapping for ransom.
And these were the students in the forestry college. And again, we even saw a video purporting to show those students, including girls who were some just, wearing a wrapper around them, the cloth tied around their bodies, because they've just been abducted from their dorms in the early hours of the morning. What has the governor said about this, or the authorities?
Well, basically, the authorities seem to be repeating the same statements that they're trying to tackle the security problem, not only in Kaduna State, but across the country. But as a position of the Kaduna State government on this kind of kidnapping for ransom, the government says it is averse to payment of ransom. And they are saying that, of course, they are trying to fight the armed criminal gangs using security forces. But so far, even the military action has seemed to have failed to deal with the armed criminal gangs. And some are saying that perhaps payment of ransom generally across the country is fueling the problem of mass kidnapping and also the issue of impunity. The kidnappers are rarely punished or prosecuted, so many feel that kind of impunity
also made responsible for the continued, deterioration of the situation.
This is why the Chadian president just got shot in the face.
Senator Shehu Sani has now advised students of the Living Faith Theological School because of what's just happened in Greenfield. You visited Kaduna recently. When you spoke to the parents and even the students themselves, what did they say to you?
In Canada, we have dogs that are like half wolf that can take -50 like it's nothing. They can smell from 100 feet away if you have a gun or weed or money in your pocket. You think we couldn't track down a duffel bag, a garbage bag full of currency, filthy currency in these countries? They, for some reason, import Canadian wolves into the U.S. and they kill everything.
But of course, parents and students say that they're determined to get, an education for the children. But the security situation is, discouraging them. So the authorities are under increasing pressure to ensure that the kidnapping crisis is resolved and also the wider security problem. And it seems the Nigerian government and also the state government do not have, at least in practical terms or visible terms, strategies to protect schools, because so far there's no clear explanation from them on what they're doing to protect schools, and there are no measures in place that people say that they're seeing to protect these schools. And the security situation seems to be getting out of hand with the continued mass abduction of students and even civilian population.
Isaac, thank you very much for joining us this morning on yet another abduction, kidnapping of students in Kaduna. Isaac Khalid.
It's World Earth Day, the annual event to demonstrate support for environmental protection to keep our planet going. We told you a little earlier in the program about the global summit convened by the US President Joe Biden to push forward the fight against climate change. Well, one organization already doing that is the Cameroon Gender and Environment Watch, which aims to protect Cameroon's forest land while creating jobs. We can speak now to Wisi Emmanuel from the organization. Thanks very much indeed for talking to us on Newsday. Tell us a little bit then about what you do.
Yes, happy Earth Day to everyone. And we are trying to see how to engage the community in the management of the forest. And we are using the bee, which is one of the insects, not only because we know much about the bees that contribute to 80% of the food we eat, but we have used the bee at this time to see how to produce more honey, because we know honey equals money. And in the Kilum forest, one of the biggest challenges we face is bushfires. And we had to see how to manage this bushfire to see how to protect the forest. And this had to be done with the engagement of the communities.
Really, all you get to do
and so we use apiculture, which is bee farming, to train more than 1,700 bee farmers and provide them with 2,000 hives, which they are placed in the forest. And when they place these hives in the forest, they became forest ambassadors, and they no longer burn the forest. And when bushfire occur, all of them come out in solidarity to protect the forest and also to protect their hives. When they are protecting their hives, they are also indirectly protecting the forest. And these two, we saw more apiculture had been a masculine activity, and we had to see how to engage women. And so when we train people, community members, and we give them one hive each so that they can go and multiply, we gave a woman 2 hives each, and we encourage women to be part of the apiculture.
And has it worked? Have women taken to doing it in the way they weren't before?
What was that laughing
yes,
in the back?
More women are more involved. And that is why women are involved in the solidarity groups. They're involved in leadership. They're involved in decision making. And also they're involved in production.
Okay. And so the key point then is it helping to protect these forests? Does it work?
Yes, it has worked because we moved bushfires that used to be about 7 in 2012 that occurred. About 7 of them destroying huge quantity of the forest, the Kilum forest, from 2012 to 0 in 2019. And then in 2017, one bushfire occurred, and that would have consumed huge quantities of the forest, hundreds of hectares. But we saw before they informed us and we arrived, there were more than 70 bee farmers already trying to protect their hives. And indirectly, the forest, the fire was put off within a very short time, and only a few hectares of the forest was destroyed. So this solidarity, which we promoted through apiculture, has also been helping in protecting the forest and engaging the communities in protecting the forest, which is a heritage. And with this, we also created the honey shop in Bamenda, an urban area where the